We're all unique, and we're supposed to be the fullest expressions of ourselves. And many people are artistic or creative and have beautiful gifts that should be brought into the world, but they feel they can't do it because of money. Our beliefs about money are very deep in the subconscious, and those can be very strong and difficult to overcome.
This is the Personal Finance Show.
Hi, I'm Bo Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. Danielle Alexandria wants to help you create true wealth and freedom for the rest of your life. She believes that creating wealth isn't just about investing in funds and letting them grow for 40 years. A more holistic approach is needed. As a financial empowerment coach, Danielle will help you overcome your limiting beliefs about money, heal your emotional wounds, and help you develop the mindset of the wealthy. Your thoughts about money might be holding you back. You might think that you can never be wealthy or that attaining financial freedom is impossible. Well, guess what? If you keep thinking these thoughts, there's a pretty good chance they're going to come true. Psychology plays a huge role in finances, and Danielle is here to help you break down whatever barriers are between you and financial success. Danielle joined me in Dufferin Grove Park in Toronto to tell her personal finance story.
I think it's going to have to be payment from the Tooth Fairy.
Okay, so Tooth Fairy. I think I've had that before.
You probably
I'm not sure.
that before.
Maybe once. But why is it so memorable for you?
Well, I don't have a rags to riches story, so I don't really have anything traumatic to share that I've overcome.
Yeah.
So I think I just remember money being a good thing, and I guess a reward. So maybe I had like a really positive first experience.
Yeah, that's good because. Yeah, so then you were able to carry that forward into your life.
And build on that.
So you have a positive, you still do have a positive relationship with money?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the Tooth Fairy, do you remember how much you got?
Well, I don't want to give my age away.
Okay.
Let's say $1.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't get $1. So you get $1 and it was a reward, and did your parents give you any kind of allowance and anything like that
I did get
too?
an allowance growing up. It wasn't anything over the top. I thought it was reasonable, and it would adjust as I got older. I got a little bit more. But I got my first job when I was 9, so I've always worked. I've always been pretty
so after the
independent.
Tooth Fairy is basically Tooth Fairy, maybe a little allowance, and then you're working. What are you doing at 9?
I delivered papers.
Okay, yeah, good.
Then I got into babysitting, then I got into retail, and then it kind of went from there.
So what made you, because not everybody has this need or want to get a job when they're younger, or is even encouraged. Do you remember what kind of pushed you into I need work, or I want to work?
I'm not really sure that I do remember, to be honest.
Well, what did you do with the money that you got? Do you remember that?
Well, I loved clothes.
Okay. So maybe that was a motivation?
Probably a good motivation. Yeah, I think I was always, my parents, I believe, raised me very well. You work hard, that you go out and make what you want happen. Very
so you saw them
oriented.
doing this? What did they do, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, my father worked in IT.
Okay.
He was in project management, so he worked with a lot of customs brokerage systems, developing their back-end computer programs.
Okay.
And he loved doing that.
That's very specialized.
Yeah. And my mom, she worked for a health board, so in the administration of it for public health. So she was always very interested in health.
Okay, so your parents, you saw them working for money, basically. Was that kind of the main thing? You saw the things they were able to do with it, and you could get your clothes?
I wouldn't say I necessarily viewed it so transactionally.
Okay, sure.
It was, they enjoyed what they did, and money was there too. But I don't think I really made the correlation they're going out and slugging away to make this money. It's just sort of, both things seem to flow. So maybe that's a credit to them that I didn't really hear those messages.
Okay, so your parents, though, they must have taught you that if you want stuff for yourself, you have to earn your own.
Yeah, they definitely raised me and my brother to be very independent and to make our own decisions. I was always extremely independent as a very young child, and still to this day. And so I think that I just decided, I'd like to go out and get a job and earn some income and have my own thing.
I think that definitely goes hand in hand with independence and making your own money early.
Yes.
Because, my brother was the same. He went out and got a job. He wanted to just be able to do his own thing, right? And I wasn't too concerned about that. So I was kind of casual about getting work. I got it when I needed it, right? So everybody's a little bit different. And so 9, you're doing newspapers and babysitting at the same time?
I think
or
that
no?
started
How old do you have to be?
I started at 11.
You can babysit at 11?
You can,
Who are you
yeah.
babysitting?
It was
like 6-year-olds?
it was my mom's, like her friend's daughter.
Okay, yeah. So a friend of a friend. It's somebody you trust.
Yes.
It's not like I don't know. You know how someone finds a babysitter today? Is there like babysitter.com?
Yeah, there probably is. If not, we should get that domain.
I just bought it right now, and I got my phone out, or babysitter.ca, and it's probably better. But you did that, and so and then you're going into high school. You're getting more? Did you say you worked in retail?
No, I didn't get my first retail job till I was 18.
Oh, 18. Okay.
So it was like the last year of high school.
So what are you just still like babysitting?
Babysitting, and then in the summers I would do like nannying, which is just a nicer way of saying babysitting.
Okay, that's good experience for
yeah,
sure. Like
more
with
responsibility.
The whole family, like you're there. Are they going on vacation or something?
Well,
too, or?
the mother would be there,
Yeah.
but she would basically hire me to come either full-time or part-time. So I'd go home at the end of the day, but to help her take care of her kids.
So you're not living in.
I'm not
somebody
living
in
there.
your neighborhood. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
That's interesting. So it's, full-time babysitting,
Yeah.
which is nannying. Yeah, they've made a couple of movies about this for sure, right? But I don't know of anyone in high school doing that. I thought it was like you go off to another country, or it's like you take a year and you go somewhere else. But hey, that sounds like a good gig for the summer.
Yeah, it was
mowing
good.
lawns
That's true.
Or landscaping,
That's true.
or whatever the grunt work that they have us do. Which how old are these kids?
It would range like babies under a year.
Okay, well maybe landscaping is not so bad.
Yeah, maybe not. They can be a handful, that's for sure.
Well, it sounds like you learned a lot of responsibility early.
You definitely learn it is a lot of responsibility taking care of people's children. I mean, truthfully, it's almost the ultimate responsibility. Their children are in your hands.
That's tough, right?
So
who cares if you mess up somebody's lawn, right?
Right. That's nothing. It grows back.
Or you deliver the wrong newspaper,
oops,
or you never do. It's like these are my kids. You can't mess with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I don't know if I've heard of anyone doing. That's early in your life.
I guess I learned good responsibility early. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, so thank you for that.
I mean, I'm sure it goes hand in hand with finances too. So, do you remember then from that job? What are you doing with that money? Are you
definitely more clothes? So the clothing is improving as I'm getting older, right? Because I can afford better.
So do you have any motivation at this point to save for school or the future or anything?
I definitely did save. I think my parents instilled, a savings habit. I wouldn't say, it was really structured and defined. For example, like save 10%.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm fortunate. I did quite well in high school, so I received a few scholarships to university.
Nice.
And then by the time I went to university, I had 3 jobs. In fact, my first week on school, I worked like a full-time job, 35 hours, and started school. And I was like, I need to quit one of them. So I had, built up my ability, my capacity to work a lot.
Okay, what are these jobs?
I still had my original grocery job, which is my first retail
that's the
job.
Retail job at 18.
Then I got a second job working for Winners, which was my favorite clothing store when I was like a teenager.
Motivated by clothing, I hear that.
And my third, oh no, I don't remember. I know I had 3 and I quit 1. Oh, I remember. I was selling like tuxedos for weddings,
like
rentals.
Rentals for weddings.
So I was, would fit them and do the alterations and things like that. And it was like one of these has to go because I can't do this much.
Well, why 3 in the first place? Do you remember why you even wanted to have that many? I mean, the fashion motivation for Winners makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I enjoyed it. It probably gave me an opportunity to keep busy and really practice my independence. Now you're getting into like late teens and you really want your independence more and more.
So you were in school though.
I was in school.
What did you take?
I have a degree in kinesiology and health science.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
it's very useful for. Well, what is it useful for?
I'm glad. That's funny.
If you're not going to be a doctor.
I know. That's
which
what
everyone says they're pre-med, I'm sure.
It is a pre-med degree,
Okay, yeah.
or you might become a phys ed teacher, for
There's
example.
a lot of things I couldn't think of.
Neither appealed to me.
But why did you take that in the first place?
I
then?
was very interested in health as
Yeah.
well, and I feel like it was an incredible program to learn how the body works. So I feel like I have, great understanding there. Then later in my life, I discovered money, so I feel like I understand health and money. So,
These are
those are
important
great
things.
foundational
Very
things
important.
to know yourself.
Yes.
I remember actually what happened. I actually got accepted as a communications major because I loved writing. And about a month before I was supposed to start, I woke up almost in a panic, like, oh my God, I can't write essays for 4 years. Like, that is just going to, I can't do that. And I drove up to the school. This is not like me. I'm not this impulsive. And I just changed it on the spot to kinesiology.
Okay.
And never looked back. And it was the right decision. And I loved the fact that where I went, York University, so they have one of the largest kinesiology programs in the country.
Okay.
And they have a practicum component, meaning you have to take like a sport each semester.
Oh, great.
And you're trained by the varsity coaches.
That
So like
sounds
I
so
did
much fun.
basketball, and like I learned swimming, gymnastics, like ballroom dance, tennis, all kinds of stuff.
All that stuff.
So you get your exercise in, and I met great people, like kin people, they're really down to earth and
Sure.
social, like kin, like family, and it's true. So I absolutely love that I did that degree.
That's fantastic. So you're still working so you had 2 jobs then during this?
Well,
Or did you
eventually
cut it
it dropped down to 2 or 1, or
Yeah.
then I would go full time in summers, because now your options open up because you start, you're in university. But the first year going in, I was still kind of like really heavy on the retail, and then I started to move away from that into more of corporate stuff.
So how did you pay for the rest of school? You got some scholarships?
I got more scholarships as it progressed.
You have to apply every year for that kind of thing, or how does it work?
Some of them were through the school, and then I actually also received them through my father's company.
Nice.
So
That's good.
some companies have scholarships for kids.
Exactly.
But I do need to mention my parents bought Canada savings bonds.
They did?
In preparation for education.
When you were very
When
young?
I was young. So
And they would have kept them in
They
RESP?
kept them.
Does it work that way for Canada Savings
I don't know
Bonds?
if
I don't know
they
that.
used that program, but they bought Canada savings bonds to save for education
That's
for my
amazing.
brother and I. So I'm very
Yeah.
lucky. And
When you could actually make some money out of
Yeah.
Canada Savings Bonds.
That's right. Exactly. Not now.
I don't recommend them.
No. So I think that was an equivalent of about 1 year of school, and then I got
That's
6
nice.
scholarships, and then I paid for the rest myself. So I'm very fortunate that I did not graduate with a boatload of debt.
Yes.
Very, very blessed.
I do like to talk about scholarships whenever they come up because
Yeah.
do you feel like it was a lot of work to apply for these scholarships?
Not at all.
Do you have any experience or people are like, you could have got this scholarship if only you would have applied?
Absolutely. It's funny. It's the same thing with, for example, government grants or other programs.
Sure.
There's great stuff out there. I would almost say it's like the equivalent of getting a resume ready for a job. You want to make sure that thing is perfect and tailored to the job you're going for.
Okay.
There's no mistakes. You've put your effort in, like you really want it. It's the same amount of effort to apply for a scholarship, and it could change somebody's life.
But maybe we don't have these skills yet when we're 17, 18, 19, whenever.
Maybe desire or attention to detail, or
Sure.
maybe those are just traits a person has even from a young age. I don't know.
People are missing out on money though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do it because I needed the money. It was more just like, this is available to me. Why wouldn't I go for it? And then
it's a very logical,
to receive
smart
it.
thing to
Yeah.
say, but why don't we have this? It doesn't seem to be in our common sense.
I don't know. I suppose that's true. Maybe people think they won't get it, so they don't apply. It's sort of maybe like an unworthiness thing, right?
Was there like a website or something like that? How did you know about them?
Well, some of them were schools, so they
Yeah, so
post
through the
posters
school.
around the campus or whatever. I guess we didn't have email back then,
No,
but
okay, yeah.
flyers and things like that. And then my father, I guess, obviously hearing about, that's a company benefit that your children could apply for
And
this.
I'm sure it's a million times easier now to find scholarships.
It's probably all
I'm sure
online.
there's aggregate websites.
It's probably
for
like,
this.
just purse your info from your social media profiles now.
So yeah, I mean, whoever's listening, if you're thinking about school, just don't discount the scholarships because I
Absolutely.
hear really good stories
Yeah.
from people. Because it sounds like if you do one, you're probably more likely to apply for others and
Exactly.
maybe get others. Right?
And then you feel really good, like, wow, I'm really succeeding. So then it's a reward in itself.
but you were able to pay for all of the rest by working?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But you had a little bit of debt when you graduated.
No, I didn't have any debt.
None at all.
No.
That's smart. And this is all living costs, or did you live at home?
I lived at home.
Okay, so that's a good benefit too.
Except in third year, I decided I need to know what it's like to live in a dorm on campus.
Okay.
I lasted 3 weeks and I came home. But I have to tell you why, because I was in third year.
Yeah.
And everyone was first year,
Of
and they were like,
course.
oh, you're third year. So it just was like, this is really silly. You know, I'm not like making friends because everyone's first year and just in their own world. And I'm a 20-minute drive, so there's kind of no point being here. So I left.
Just to compare to my
But I
situation.
can say I experienced it.
In third year, I moved into on-campus one-bedroom apartment.
Oh, okay.
I was in residence first year,
Right.
and then I'm like, by third year, I'm like, nope, but
Screw
I'll stay
that.
on campus. There's no way I'm living with other people.
Right.
I live with people for second year, and then I'm in a place
You
of my
got
own.
there young.
It's only $500 a month.
Wouldn't you like that rent now?
I don't know. I hope it's close to that now still. Just subsidized sort of student housing. But
Yeah.
it was a nice big
Yeah.
one-bedroom apartment, right?
Amazing.
And why not, right?
Yeah.
So you get this degree in kinesiology and health sciences. Is that correct?
Yes.
A bachelor.
Yes.
And then what are you doing with it?
So, okay.
Not now, but what did you?
Yeah.
What was the path after
This is
that?
kind of a funny story. I thought I was going to be a personal trainer.
Yeah, sure.
But at that point, I wasn't actually like training. I played tennis growing up since I was a child, so I was like into that, and then golf later. But I wasn't like a trainer in the gym. Okay. Part of those practicums we had to take in the first year, we had to do a fitness assessment course, and you learn all about how to assess a person's fitness level.
Okay.
I get there and we're in the gym for this, and I'm like, what's that smell?
Okay.
It smells like rubber. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I think I need an office.
Oh, interesting. The rubber smell really
So
bothered
I was
you?
just like, this environment just isn't for me. And I haven't thought this through very well, because now I'm like a year into my degree. What am I going to do? But I'm liking everything else I'm learning otherwise, like
Sure.
all the anatomy and physiology concepts. So I kind of didn't know what to do with that, but I continued. And then in my third year, I took an elective in sports marketing. And essentially that was all about the business side of professional sports. So marketing, sponsorships, partnerships, essentially businesses working with professional sports to gain exposure to their target market, and how you would structure those deals and put them together.
So that was all in one elective?
That's the premise of it. I mean,
Yeah.
at a very basic
you had the intro
level.
to sports marketing.
like the business side
Yeah.
of professional sports, and I just loved it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And York had a program, a certificate, undergrad certificate in sports marketing. So I enrolled in that. So that's in addition to the degree. So I ended up doing 5 years at York because I took this program. So
Okay.
part of that course required us to do a co-op. And I was very fortunate, but my co-op was with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
Yes, and
so now
it's
you see
very
I've
hard to
moved
get.
into the corporate side now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess there is the connection there between kinesiology, health sciences,
Sure.
sports, and
Yeah.
sports marketing. Now, was I there at the time? I forget.
I
Did
think we
overlap?
missed each other by a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
I
so
left first.
You left before I started.
I went to
then?
Australia.
You went to Australia for 6 years.
Yes.
5, 6 years.
Yeah.
So the co-op at MLSE.
It was in seasons ticket sales
Okay.
and service. So that was the Leafs and the Raptors at that time. Now it's expanded to a lot more teams. And I was the assistant to the vice president.
Okay.
And
Who was it at the time?
So Chris Overholt,
Okay,
who's now
Chris, yeah.
the CEO of the Canadian Olympic Association.
Yes, I actually just met Chris
Did you?
at a lunch. We had a gathering of previous
What a
employees.
small world.
And he was the only one that I had not worked with.
Wow. Okay.
And everyone else, so he knew everyone at the table. I knew everyone at the table, so we were able to connect
Amazing.
that way. But that's really funny. So you worked for Chris.
I did.
For, what, 6 months? How long was the
okay,
co-op?
so my co-op was part-time for a semester.
Okay.
And then he hired me after.
Oh, nice.
So
Not
then,
guaranteed. That wasn't always going
no,
to be
no,
a
no, no,
thing,
no,
right?
it's
But
not. A lot of people at that time were, securing their employment by coming through the co-op route,
Yeah.
which is a great way to prove yourself.
If anyone's thinking about co-op,
Yes, absolutely.
Go for it, right?
Go for it,
'Cause
absolutely.
It's like the best job interview ever.
Absolutely. Well, it's really funny. I was actually recounting this story the other day to somebody. I'm almost amazed he hired me because basically we get in there. He's like, so why do you want this job? And I go, because it's the Leafs, man. And I thought, oh my God, I'm such an
That's actually
idiot.
the worst thing
That's
to
literally
say.
what I
Yeah.
said, and I said it like that because I was a raving Maple Leafs fan. And he hired me. And I was like okay.
It's good and it's bad, right? It's good, like, if that's the only reason you're here, oh no. But if, like, you are a Leafs fan, it's good to work for the Leafs if you're a
Let me
Leafs
tell
fan.
you, that was a dream to say my coworker is Matt Sundin.
Yeah.
And, like, oh, just incredible. It really, really was a special time.
And I wasn't a sports fan at all. So the only reason I took the job was because it said all non-sports events.
Okay, right.
But yeah, I worked down the hall from
Yeah.
Daryl Sittler and
Yeah.
Well, Daryl Sittler, he had a desk. I don't know if Wendell Clark had a desk, but they were the alumni who would send around to events.
Yes.
Right? They would still work for the company. How long did you work for Chris then?
For about 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. So first he hired me. I was in my last year of school, my 5th year. So the fall semester was the co-op, so that was unpaid. And then the winter semester, he hired me part-time.
Okay.
And then it went full-time when I graduated.
And so now you're making some money.
I'm
This is the
making
first
some
time you're
money,
making
but I
real
wouldn't say it
money.
was like, a massive salary.
The other thing for working for MLSE is people tend to take the job, especially a starting
Yes.
job.
Yes.
Right? And you might not make the best salary.
You're
but
not
that's
gonna make
okay
the best
'cause you're
salary.
getting great experience.
But yeah, I mean, for me, for the rest of my life, that will still always remain a highlight, a special place in my heart to say I worked for, like, my team that I just was so passionate about. Like, it was the most important thing to me. I mean, what a blessing. You know,
Yeah.
I really feel very lucky because how many staff do they have? And how
Yeah.
many fans are there who feel like the way I do?
Yeah, there are many who like
Yeah.
thousands of resumes would come in for
Oh, yeah.
people who were
Absolutely.
fans, right? People
Yeah.
who really just want, and hey, I wish every company had that, right?
Right.
We had a great team.
Yeah.
I definitely, my MLSE family is like always,
Oh, yeah.
always in my mind, and there are, like, some of them are still there, and some of them are different
Mm-hmm.
places, and some of them have been on the podcast. So I had Richard Petty on.
Oh, yeah.
And I just published Dean Clark.
Okay,
he was
of
obviously
course,
CFO
yeah.
when you were there
Yes.
too, because he's always been the top
Yes.
money guy there.
Yeah, that's
Whether
right.
it was called CFO or vice president of finance or whatever, he was always up there
Yeah.
while they were building up. So, yeah, these are really stellar people in my mind. But yeah, so you're not making any money to really think about investing yet. You're just living. You're able
I actually
to live.
didn't know about investing
Oh,
yet.
not yet. Okay,
Oh,
so
no.
you're not even there
No.
yet. Okay, so let's go to Australia. Are we going to Australia
Sure,
next?
yes. That's
Okay.
perfect, actually.
So what's the decision to move to Australia?
Okay. Well, actually, I didn't move to Australia as soon as I left.
Okay.
I wanted to go traveling. I mean, I got hired right out of school, and I wanted to see the world. So I left, and I went traveling to Europe, and I did those Kentucky tours you do when you're in your 20s, and
Okay, yeah.
you're on a bus with like 60 other 20-somethings, and there's
Sure.
lots of alcohol involved.
Okay, so you guys did that. That was
I did
like,
that.
You wanted to take a little bit of a break. From
Rite of passage,
working?
right?
Oh, rite of passage, because you never had that after your
It's not-
university.
I didn't mind working. Obviously, that's kind of a theme for me. But I just felt that I wanted to see the world at this point, and that there was just more for me. I didn't necessarily know what, but I just felt like this was the right decision.
That's smart. I mean, if anybody wants to get a little perspective and try to figure out what they're doing, travel is awesome.
Travel is awesome, and you don't necessarily need to know all the answers, but if you've got this gut feeling, I believe you should always follow it. It's always right, and the answers will come. So I was away for the summer. I came back, and then at that point, the job market wasn't so great. This was in late 2002.
Okay.
And it took me about 6 months to get a job. Now, I'd only really had one corporate job, which was with the Maple Leafs.
And you were still looking for sports marketing?
I was still in that field, and then I ended up taking a contract with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, so I
Okay.
kind of went into the not-for-profit side, and that was more running events. I would do a lot of the fundraising stuff in the schools. So I would do the hoops for heart and jump rope for heart. So I go out to
Okay.
the schools and pump the kids up and get them excited.
Were you working on hoops? Were you working with the Raptors at all?
No,
for that,
there
or
wasn't
no?
a connection.
No connection
Not-
there?
Not then,
Interesting.
yeah. So it was
But
very
events-
grassroots.
Yeah, grassroots events is tough.
It can be.
It can be if you, because you got to do everything.
You have to do everything, yeah.
All on the spot, and you have to coordinate the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And then the event day comes and...
Oh, it's so stressful. Right? Like if you ever go to an event and you're like, this is so awesome, I'm enjoying myself, the amount of stress that goes on leading up to it and behind the scenes. And you have to have like contingency plan F, for all the contingency plans before it. I learned that this is probably not where I want to, focus my energies.
Okay.
But I definitely have an appreciation for people in the events industry because they work so hard and it's really stressful.
Yeah.
There's a lot to manage.
Air Canada Center was bananas.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's a unique person who can consistently run events over and over and take the stress and take the demands and all that kind of stuff. So you did this for how long?
It was a 9-month contract. Okay, so it was up in October 2003. I was thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do when that ends? And that's when Australia was really calling to me. And I had met a lot of Australians on my Kentucky summer tour the year before in Europe. So I knew a few people now, and I'm like, all right, here was my criteria of what to do next. I don't like the Canadian winter, so I want to go somewhere to escape it. Well, Australia has the opposite seasons, perfect. So I could literally go beginning of fall.
Yeah.
I was going to just go 6 months, and then I'd come back in spring, and I would literally not have winter for a really long time. I thought that was brilliant.
It's smart. It's a brilliant plan. How do I avoid the worst parts of Canada?
Yeah, exactly. Because I love Canada, but the winter, come on, it weighs on you, right?
60 wind
No,
chill.
that's true. So I thought Australia kind of fit the bill. Aussies were super fun and social. Mm-hmm. It's an English-speaking country. It's a Western country.
It's very similar to Canada, do you find? We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. In the beginning, I would agree.
Yes, okay.
But as I spent more time, I'd say they're much more like Americans.
Sure. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that
the
they
Kiwis,
would like that at all.
Actually, they love America.
Do they?
They have a love affair with the States.
Interesting.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Maybe when you go back, you can let me know if you noticed that.
Yeah, well, because we would say we're Canadian, and
they love Canadians.
I think maybe people don't like Trump so much right now, so
that's
kind of dampening their American
that's a good point.
love. So that's my recent experience. But yeah, you had we're on spoiler, 6 years.
Yeah, it wasn't 6 continuous years. So first I went for 4.
Well, 4.
Then I came back to Toronto, home, and I was here for 7 years. And then I was getting the itch again.
Okay.
And I thought, all right, I'm either going to go to London or I'm going to go back to Sydney. My mom is from England, so I have British citizenship. So it's like that is just makes things so much easier.
Sure.
But my heart's not in London.
Yeah,
I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but so I decided to go back to Sydney. So if you add it up, then I went back like another 18 months. And then I came home 2 years ago.
So what did you do for the first 4 years?
Right. Okay. So when I arrived, I was still working in the sports marketing industry. So I got a job with Ticketmaster.
Oh, you did?
Through a contact I have here. So I became friends with the head of Ticketmaster in Canada as a result of working at Maple Leaf Sports. He's an amazing man. He's retired now.
Yes.
Tom Worrell.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah.
And the new head is my former boss, Patty Ann.
Patty, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So Tom was kind enough to, so picture this, I'm 27. Mm-hmm. I've never really, aside from going to England by myself and doing that Europe tour, I haven't really lived on my own or anything. I've been pretty sheltered. I land in Australia, I don't know anyone. And my friend Tom emails the CEO of Ticketmaster,
wow.
Australia, this is Danielle, she'd make a great employee. And I'm like, damn, I'm feeling really great about myself, right?
And how does it work for visas and stuff like that?
So Australia and there's about 12 other countries have the working holiday visa.
So you could do the 2 years?
No.
What was it?
No. So at the time, Canadians could go for 1 year and you couldn't renew it.
Oh,
now
really?
they've expanded that.
Yeah.
If you work in certain jobs, which are very labor intensive, like in the outback and things, fruit picking, for example, you can actually apply to renew it. But now, when I went, it wasn't, and you could only hold a job for 3 months. Now it's 6. So it was actually more restrictive. It was harder. Okay. But anyway, Ticketmaster hired me. I worked in the call center.
Great.
I also have great respect for what those people do.
Yeah, so these are good experiences.
They were.
From the nannying
to events.
to events, just even working in ticket sales.
Ticket sales,
That's, sales is a tough job. We didn't talk about that much, but it's, maybe not selling Leafs tickets. I don't know.
Really. Would you like some Maple Leaf tickets? Yeah.
So maybe that was more of a relationship management role?
Yeah. Well, my role was, I was his executive assistant, so I did a lot of different
you
things.
weren't selling,
more support. Actually, I did start doing some sales myself.
Okay.
With various tickets and things like that, but
yeah, these are
not a typical sales job.
No,
anyone who works there.
So call center, and how was that? 6 months?
No, so it was 3 months.
3 months, yeah.
But
okay.
then about halfway through that, I was like, somehow I started working in the box office at their,
Okay.
their arena.
So you're frontline on the phones, but now you're frontline.
And so they split
for
me,
people.
and then I also did some group sales. So they actually took me off the regular call center,
Okay.
which I was very happy about.
Because that's helpline? What is it? People who have complaints? Or what are they
No,
looking for?
it's to order tickets.
Oh, for ticket orders,
People
okay.
calling in, asking questions about their orders
Sure,
and things like that.
okay.
So that was 3 months, and then I met some great contacts there. And, the world is truly so small and global. The guy who was running it would be the equivalent of like the ACC in Sydney, which is a smaller
Sure.
arena. But anyway, he was from LA. He used to work for the basketball team, Lee Kessler. So he'd been
Okay.
sent. No, this is a long time ago, but it's funny how people all move around, right? So anyway, I did that for about 3 months, and then the point of the working holiday program is you work a little bit, you travel a little bit. You
Yeah.
work a little bit, you
Okay.
kind of have this flexibility. So then I traveled for a couple months. I went up to Queensland, which was beautiful.
Great
and then
Barrier Reef?
Yes, yeah, snorkeled
snorkeling?
it. Yeah, it was
Nice.
it's just incredible. It's
just
just
there?
incredible. Yeah.
Like a week and a half
Oh
ago.
wow. Yeah.
So my memory is very fresh. But
Yeah.
yes, that was, well, we don't have to keep dating this, but was it 2000?
This is 2004 at this point.
Yeah. Wow. So the reef is a little different now. It's
It
recovering.
is, yes.
But and you were just there too, probably in the last.
No, I haven't been back.
You didn't get up
no,
there in the last.
I haven't been back.
trip.
Not to the reef.
So you got to see that, which is a fantastic part of
Yeah,
Australia.
definitely.
But you were based in Sydney,
Yes, I loved Sydney.
and then after your trip, and you went back to Sydney and worked more?
Yeah, so I returned to Sydney. So at this point, I had a base of like really good friends,
Yeah,
and my life
okay.
felt, there. And then I got another job, and I was selling. You want to talk about hard sales? Cold calling.
Oh, no.
Okay, I was selling stadium sponsorship signage for international rugby tournaments.
Okay.
So when you watch on TV, and it's like the boards.
Yeah.
And they rotate, and well, now it's electronic, but back then
Sure.
they were physical structures that would flip.
Yeah.
And so it was
when
literally
you watch the game on TV,
Yeah.
you see the sideboards.
Yep.
And we would call them rink boards for hockey.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was literally okay. Now, where I worked, you could almost turn this place into a movie, like literally.
Okay.
We didn't have computers. They literally dropped the yellow pages in front of you, and you were to hammer out minimum 100 calls a day,
Oh.
push through to either the CEO or the
Yeah.
marketing director, and essentially convince them on the phone without a face-to-face meeting to buy sponsorship signage that might cost 20, 30 grand, 15 grand.
Yeah, and how many companies have that kind of money anyway?
Even more so, there was no database where, say you're salesperson A,
Yeah.
and you write down, attempt to contact with so-and-so company, not interested. So everybody was calling the same people over and over again.
Meanwhile,
and they'd be like,
everyone-
you people again!
Today they would be using Salesforce or something
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
it
It's
was
any kind of
so
CRM, and they would all
unorganized.
be like logged.
It was unorganized.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I definitely learned a lot
make
in that
sales?
job. I did actually. I did well. I was hitting a sale a week, which was actually the
Okay.
target. But then I reached a point where I felt like morally this is really conflicting with like everything, how I would even want to do this.
Yes.
Like call up and pressure
Learning
somebody.
your values, yeah.
Yeah, it really forged a stronger sense of myself
Okay.
and my values. So I ended up resigning. And in fact, when I came in, I had been sick. I come in, and they're having a meeting, and the director goes, and Danielle, I see you've come in because you know that this is a great day to make money. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, it's the total opposite. You have no idea what you're talking about. But, it was that kind of
Yeah,
environment,
yeah,
like a lot of testosterone.
I feel like I'm feeling a little bit of Wolf of Wall Street here, yeah.
Almost.
Without the illegal activities, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and then I quit. And then my visa was almost up to go home, my year to go home. And I had, resigned myself. Okay, I have to go home. And then 2 weeks before, so I, given notice at my apartment. I'd booked my flight.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks before I was supposed to go home, I suddenly got this really strong desire, like, what am I doing? I love it here. I have to find a way to stay here.
Okay.
And then,
Motivation.
and then I just turned it on. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. I've decided. That's it. I'm not leaving. And I will just figure this out. So I did. And basically, I took a really logical approach. And I was like, okay, well, what industries does Australia sponsor? What are the transferable skills I have that could fit those positions? And who do I know, like, that I could use to network? And I landed on recruitment because I had no HR experience and I had no agency experience. but they were interested in my sales ability, my sales experience.
Interesting.
And I was so determined to stay that I know that that's what, basically convinced them to take a chance on me, because what they hired me to do was financial recruitment.
Okay.
So at this point, yes, I, feel like I've had a good energy with money, but I don't know anything about finance, investing, nothing. And I'm literally thrown into investment banking recruitment.
So break that down. It's in a very brief description of how to recruit someone.
Well, it's changed because back then there was no LinkedIn or people didn't have their profiles.
But it's network.
It was networking and putting a lot of ads out, and hoping candidates would reach them. But, you'd work for a good agency and they'd have candidates who would register and, it was known. So when the company I worked for did both sides. It's called like full cycle recruitment, meaning I'm responsible for prospecting the client, so calling up, whoever manager, director, head, if they need staff. So getting the job, understanding the requirements, then writing the ad to track the candidate, interviewing the candidates, managing the candidates. You're doing both sides.
Is this headhunting?
Headhunting.
Yeah, is that what, that's a derogatory term?
It's not derogatory. Usually headhunting refers to more like executive level.
Oh, I see, okay.
So I was doing, not executive level, below that, like entry to, say, senior manager.
Okay.
And that was really difficult for me because I didn't know anything about the financial industry, and investment banking can be really in your face and like derivative this, derivative that, and I was like so out of my depth.
You learned a little bit though?
But
you had to.
I wanted to quit all the time. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But the reason I got that job is because I had a boyfriend, and he was a stockbroker.
Oh, okay.
And he had a contact who did financial recruitment here, and so he sent my resume in, and that's how I got the job.
I was wondering how you got the interview.
Yeah, that's how I got the job. So the first year was really, really tough. And it's not like I was like I am now, where I could just read about financial education for hours. It wasn't like that then. It was like force fed down my throat, and I didn't want to do it. So you can imagine, it was really difficult. But I had to do it to survive, to stay there. Like, I had no choice.
Yeah. Well, that's how you felt. I mean, you actually did, in the whole scheme of things. But for you had no choice for you, and that's the most important
because
thing.
What I didn't say is, so my visa expired.
Yeah.
And then I had to get sponsored by a company on a 4-year business visa. Yeah. And that's not so easy to just move around like that. Mm-hmm. So here's a company willing to take a gamble on me. I have no recruitment experience. I couldn't just go get another job.
Yeah, I mean, you could have gone back to Canada.
I could have gone back to Canada,
that's what I mean.
Right.
Which would have been you being
I would have
defeated,
been miserable.
right?
Absolutely.
Defeated, miserable, and I think maybe some people don't think that they can. All the signs pointed you have to go back to Canada.
Yeah.
So you believe that, like the big part of you. But the thing inside you saying it was really strong.
It was so strong. Like, I will do whatever it takes. And I know that came across. And then I also would have had to go home, like, as winter was coming on. It was like, the worst possible scenario. I'm like, I am not going to let this happen.
Well, that's good. I mean, and so you found the resources.
I did,
You used whatever you had.
Yes.
And you, like you said, you did what you did to
I did what I did, yeah.
But did you stay there
So long? I stayed there for 2 years.
2 years.
And I didn't do that well at it for a variety of reasons, but I also felt like a lot of it was pressuring people to do things that you could feel was not in their best interest. It is sales. They weren't interested in me because of my HR experience. They were interested in me because of my sales experience.
Yeah.
And
but what's so uncomfortable about somebody wanting somebody to be recruited or somebody being recruited?
Well,
what are they pushing back?
Let's say I don't have the best candidate for this hiring manager. He could be working with 3 other recruiters, but it's my job to convince him that I do.
You have to, okay.
And let's say the candidate is on the fence about taking the job. You're supposed to, and I didn't do this, so I never put up the biggest numbers. And I thought, I know I'm good at feeling into like the right match.
Yeah.
But this environment of being compensated for it is not the right thing for me.
Because if it wasn't the right match, you still had to.
That didn't matter.
You have to make the pieces fit.
You have to.
That's uncomfortable.
So it didn't sit well with me. So anyway, after 2 years, I felt, kind of done with Australia. I'd been there 3 years at that point. Or 4 years.
Can I ask about your money situation at this time? Like, how are you could you afford to stay? And
I was living with my partner at the time.
Yeah. Australia's expensive.
Australia's very expensive.
Yeah.
It was expensive then, but it's even more so now.
Oh.
but I didn't have a car.
Okay.
You know, we split like the rent and that kind of thing. So I mean, it was doable.
You were able to live, but maybe you didn't have any savings.
No,
or-
I did.
You were able to build up
I
some?
arrived with savings.
Oh, nice.
So I never had an issue where I was like dipping into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't investing yet. And this is really interesting. My very first experience with investing. So my partner at the time, Telstra, if you
Okay,
know, is
yeah.
like the equivalent of Bell
Yeah.
in Australia. So they used to be a government organization, and they were just splitting off into private. And he says, you know, but you're guaranteed to make money from this if you just even want to put in like $1,500. Like, I'll do it for you.
Telstra stock.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, I had this feeling in my stomach, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, no, I can't. Even though I trust you totally
Yeah.
and you're telling me it's guaranteed, no, like, I didn't know. And so that was kind of like my first like experience, kind of like looking with investing. And
Knowing your risk tolerance, maybe.
yeah, just like, I don't know anything about this. I'm completely uncomfortable to pull the trigger. And then a year later, I had moved back to Canada, and I still had some money in Australia. And actually, the stock was doing well. So this was in 2007,
Okay.
a year before the Great
no.
Recession. Okay, no, that's fine. Things were booming still.
In Australia.
So my ex-partner at the time,
Yeah.
you know, I agreed to invest in Telstra on his recommendation.
Okay.
And
After thinking about it for a little bit.
well, this was different. So
Yeah,
then,
different
you know,
situation.
it gone public and whatnot. And he was like, look, the stock's doing really well. Like, it's a good thing to invest in. And I was like, okay. And I remember I still had that same feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
But I trusted him, and I said, okay, let's do it. And I put $5,000 in on his recommendation. Okay. But I've never forgotten that feeling, because that has guided me not to pull the trigger ever since
On like
in investing.
Yeah.
If I have that feeling that I don't know enough,
Yeah.
I don't do it.
That's smart.
I'm not ready yet. Doesn't mean no, just not now. And a year later, of course, everything crashed,
Including that.
And I didn't sell. Fortunately, Telstra, it was a very cheap stock. I think I bought it at like $3.80, and
Okay.
I had like 1,200 shares or something like that. But they also paid dividends. So while the stock hadn't recovered, I evened out with the dividends
You kept getting
a couple
dividends.
years later.
Okay.
And he was like, don't sell now. It's going to go up. And I was like, I don't care. At this point, I had started learning about investing. I'm like, I know what I want to buy here,
Yeah.
and I want the funds here. I've broken even with the
Okay.
dividends.
Okay.
So now I want to bring the money over and invest it. And I
That's
bought LinkedIn stock with that,
Interesting.
and I more than doubled my money. So
Okay.
that
So
was the right instinct,
How are you
too.
learning about investing
Okay.
over on
Yes.
this side? So wait, now that you came back to Canada from Australia. What are you doing?
Okay, so I come back, and I was like, what do I do now? Now I can have any job,
You
because
got
I don't need to be
a lot of
sponsored.
things, and you got a lot of different experiences
Yeah,
too.
I did. So I was literally like, all right, I could go back to sports and entertainment now,
Sure.
which was really fun, and none of the stress of the whole financial thing and
It's funny you
agency
say
and
that, because I
recruitment.
still think it's stressful, but it's
You had
something
a
you
different
really
job
love.
than
It's
I
something
did.
you loved, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's too simple. Hi, do you want Maple Leafs tickets? I mean, that's
Well,
not
doing that
exactly the
specifically,
job,
yeah,
but
I get that. Okay.
there was no challenge in it.
Sure.
And then I had just invested 3 years, like, struggling through learning, and I started to, like, understand this stuff and
Okay.
started to develop an interest in financial education. And I was like, or how about I build on the skill I've developed? I know I'm good at it, just not in an agency. Why don't I do it properly, like in-house for a bank?
Sure,
And I
okay.
might as well stay in the banking industry, since that's what I've been investing my time in. So in-house meaning you're now in HR, and your job is to hire the best person for your company.
Yeah.
So that's a far better fit to me, rather than kind of skimming the surface of many companies
right.
and guessing.
Yeah.
I know exactly what we need in terms of the person, the culture, experience, whatnot. And I worked for Royal Bank of Canada, so I ended up applying to a couple banks.
Okay.
And I knew I was going to get this job. I had this intuition.
Okay.
I saw the posting the first time, and actually ended up seeing the posting 3 times before I applied to it. And I'm like, they reposted it the third time for one day. I'm like, they're obviously waiting for me. But I know that sounds like arrogant, but I just had this knowing. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no, I've
had
been
it about
there.
jobs before.
You
like,
look at the job
this is just
description.
my job.
And yeah, you think I match everything.
It
on
wasn't
this
even
list,
a
or
logical deduction.
Yeah.
It was a flash of intuition.
Interesting.
This is yours.
like the gut feeling about the
Gut
stock.
feeling. So I apply, and anyway, I get hired. So I was hiring bankers in Ontario for Royal Bank of Canada. So I ended up staying there 7 years. I really loved
Wow.
RBC. I thought it was an excellent company. I really enjoyed working for them. So I did that job for 4 years. And at this point, I'm more and more interested in financial education. So I enrolled in the Canadian Securities course.
Nice.
And I thought, I don't know, maybe I want to do something with securities. I really like investing in the stock market. So I wrote my exam, I passed, and then I enrolled in Wealth Management Essentials. And I thought, I'm going to be a financial planner because I can help people change their beliefs about money and help them with this. So I started studying that, and I start getting more and more disillusioned as I go along. So this is only my own opinion, not to knock anyone else's, but I just felt that it was not really in the client's best interest, and it was not holistic. So it's a lot of selling insurance and investments, and it's in the the house's favor rather than low fees, for example. It's not about that. I just felt it was incomplete, and it didn't address the psychological aspect of people's opinions about money.
Yeah.
So I abandoned the course, actually.
Okay.
I thought,
so you're learning, they're teaching you this as just like how to sell products for the bank as opposed to find out what the client needs and wants.
Well, you are finding them out, what the client needs and wants, but I just found it was... it's just incomplete. It felt very incomplete. I just felt like, no, this is not for me, and it felt like a lot of memorization of like really obscure tax codes. If the client is from Alberta from before 1972 and they have 6 children, then 4.89 code. Like, it's just like there's no way I'm going to remember this. No. Like, I just want to help people, and it just became. The tax chapter was 300 pages, and I was like, there is just no way. Like, I'm not a technical person, right? I was like, no, this isn't the right thing. So I decided to abandon the course. But I kept just studying and learning about financial education and wealth creation. Financial education, wealth creation. And at this point, I'm investing. So I've been investing kind of steadily for, 12 years.
You're doing your own investing?
Doing my own.
Picking stocks and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because you like this stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
It'll always have a part of my life.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it. It's not for everyone, obviously.
No, it's not. Yeah, if you have an interest, definitely explore it.
Definitely.
But if you get the gut feeling in your stomach, don't pull the trigger.
That's right.
And whenever you're doing any of this, right? If you when you're picking your own stocks, you feel comfortable.
Yes.
It's all about different levels of risk.
Yes, but there is a lot to learn with stock picking, which is so different to, for example, like an ETF.
Yeah, the stocks have been picked already.
But I mean, if somebody is really not interested in studying and learning, and it's so complicated when you're looking at investing, not complicated, but there are a lot more factors to consider.
Yes.
And also trading versus investing are two different things.
Trading is so different.
Typically, the kind of client I work with doesn't really know much about it and probably doesn't want to, and that's totally fine. Then, looking at a thing like, a low fee ETF portfolio, then that's a perfect solution for them.
Take all the
for
picking
so
and
many
trading
reasons.
out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
but you're good with this, and
Yes.
so you're liking investing, and you want to help people, realizing not everyone's like you, of course.
Right.
So where did you go next?
Well, I didn't really have an answer yet. I just kind of kept doing it as a hobby and learning more and more and more.
Okay.
And then I just started to move into like marketing side of HR. So instead of, for example, maybe selling a credit card, I was selling careers for the entire company. So looking at marketing campaigns and branding, which was really interesting.
Sort of
yeah.
deal, yeah.
So, after the bankers, like hiring bankers, then I moved to more corporate functions. So I was hiring the lawyers and the marketers and things like that. So I had this kind of, and risk management. So I had this broad view of the different divisions. So they created a position for me to help build this.
I like this well-rounded career that you have, because it enables you to step a lot of bridges to build, right?
Definitely.
So you're able to understand like all of the aspects.
Yeah, it definitely it appealed as well to my desire to have breadth, to work on something with like a lot of meat to it. It's not just super focused, right?
Sure.
I like the broadness. So I did that, and then I did that for a year and a half, and then that's that year where I was getting the itch. So eventually I decided to go back to Sydney. I worked for Commonwealth Bank of Australia, which is equivalent to the RBC there.
Yeah.
Very professional as well. And that was also covering every division. And
it's a big role.
It was a really big role, and I'm brand new. And I actually really struggled with that, which surprised me, because coming off RBC, I was so familiar with the banking industry, and I'd worked globally before, I'd worked in Australia before, I knew my stuff. And I was surprised that I had to like really acclimatize. Things were different. They're different in every company. I guess that was a good lesson for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
things do change.
Yeah. So there were some issues where, positions were cut, and therefore they had to cut some roles in recruitment, because they had the largest recruitment force in Australia of any company. It was very large.
Wow.
So they didn't need so many people. So my position was one of those.
Okay.
Now, at that point, I was okay with that, because I was really feeling like, I'm meant to do something more. I'm meant to do something more and contribute more to the world, and I don't think recruitment is it. As interesting and challenging as this is mentally and creatively, I don't think this is like where I'm supposed to be. So I ended up leaving Australia. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't really worry about it. I had a great time that year. That was 2016. So my role finished in March, and I was on 4 continents that year. I did a ton of travel. I went to Bali. I was in Thailand. I went to Mexico even before I went back to North America, and I just had a really good time, actually, and didn't worry about it.
I like that you have there's all these moments in your life where you get the opportunity to think about what you're going to do next, or reflect, or think about, do I want to stay in this thing? And nothing is saying to you, you have to do something in kinesiology, health sciences.
That's way in the past.
You have to do something in sports marketing.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
No.
You're not limited by that, and I think that's really important, because if somebody gets say a law degree, they might feel like they always have to be a lawyer.
Right.
And if an opportunity comes up, it's not for me.
Yes.
But maybe, how do you feel?
I think we're
right?
trained to think like that. And it's very limiting.
Yeah.
And our skills are applicable in so many other ways. And I think that's just part of the struggle or the journey of being human, is like to overcome that. And that's a lot what I do in my current practice, is helping people realize they're much bigger than who they've allowed themselves to believe they are.
Yeah.
Right?
And how did you what's the first step, if we start on the first step to this current practice?
Okay, so later in the year after traveling, that in 2016, I decided, okay, I think I'm going to be a life coach. I feel like that's a good fit for me.
But I so much.
I know I've had this ability to really touch people, and many people say, they find my energy very inspiring. I'm not really interested in inspiring people. I'm more interested in healing people. But I wasn't thinking anything to do with money at this point at all. I thought just a generic life coach. Okay. Yeah. And a week after I made this decision, when I decided that, I thought I probably should take some kind of course or training. I know I can have the conversations now. I'm meant to do this. Yeah. But I think it would be good to have some kind of training, and maybe how to structure working with a client or whatever. So I thought I'll take a course, but I didn't even know what I was going to do at this point. Okay, so a week after this, a friend of mine who I'd met in Bali a few months earlier, who's in Australia, sends me a message. Hey, would you coach me about money? And I'm like, whoa, I haven't even said anything to anyone yet. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we Skype and talk about it? So of course I prepare for it, and she's like, this is really good. I totally want to hire you. I'm like, okay, great. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. So then we have our first session a week later. So I kind of prepared my own method and what I was going to do. And meanwhile, I was friends with this woman on Facebook from Las Vegas who was also a life coach. And I thought she had a very clever promotion. Okay. She was turning 50. So she says, I'm offering a special for the next 50 new clients. I'll give you one free coaching session. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. So I kind of saw it, and I'm like, but I'm not her target market. I want to do this myself. So I kind of didn't do anything. And then she's like, I really have 13 spots left to fill. Reach out to me. And I was like, so I sent her a private message, hey, I feel drawn to your offer, but I want to be honest, I'm just starting to do this myself, so I'm probably not what you're looking for. She's like, no, don't be silly, let's do it. Okay. So we got on our call, and I had my first client session with my client the night before. So basically, we're just explaining to each other our approaches, and hers was more general, and I explained what I did, and she goes, oh, well, I'd like to hire you to be my money coach too. And I'm like, I'm like a reverse marketing genius.
So she's a life coach.
She's a life coach.
And she's now hiring you to be a money coach.
Be a money coach.
Because she doesn't do that.
Because and a lot of people who are in coaching or spiritual or healing profession aren't really good with money.
Yeah.
It seems like a real
also
contradiction. Yeah, that's true too.
Anybody who has a lot going on
Yes.
that's not financial,
Yes.
they're focusing on that stuff.
Well, it's also that as a society, we've been conditioned to believe that, money is commercial and healing should be a
that
gift.
too. Okay.
Oh, so, they're like oil and water, but it's
Yeah.
not true. So I help a lot of people
so
overcome this.
That's a really good point. So you've been able to combine these things that
Yes.
were historically
Exactly.
split.
Yes. And then from there, like all these few other people and I suddenly have like 5 clients. And
You didn't even
I didn't.
ask for
I
them.
honestly didn't. I never advertised. I didn't do anything, and I was like,
Wow.
but I felt I was the energy of like a really good coach. I was there already. I know I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And when you have that deep down, confidence almost isn't the right word. It's like a knowing.
Yeah.
Then, the people are going to come because I'm supposed to help them.
Yeah.
So.
That just makes total
Yeah.
sense to me.
Okay. Good. Good. I don't have to explain it more. So yeah, then one of them is just like, you are meant to do this. You're meant to help people with money coaching. And I was like, I think she's right. Like, I've come from the banking world. I've studied financial education. I get money on a lot of levels, like economically, energetically, spiritually. There's no conflicts in my mind. So she says, you're meant to do this. You're meant to coach people with money. And it just kind of clicked. Wow, I should focus on this.
Yes.
I really do feel I have a gift to bridge those two worlds. So I really thought I was going to help the healers in the spiritual community when I first started, but I was not thinking about teaching them financial education at this
No.
point. It was really on the psychological side, like the limiting beliefs and like resolving these so that money can flow.
So there's 2 different ways there, right? Like
2 different things.
teaching. If you heal someone, then like you said, money does flow easier. Is that what you're saying? Money, their ability to generate money is sort of enhanced.
Yeah, so basically everything is energy in the
Yeah.
universe. This has been proven scientifically. And money is energy too. And if you ask me, I believe that monergy. I've actually, it's funny, I used that word before with that same client who said you're supposed to do
trademark
this.
that.
Monergy, I should. Money to me is the energy of freedom.
Yes.
And where a lot of people go wrong with money is, money is the root of all evil. Actually, that's an incorrect quote. It's that the love of money is the root of all evil, because then you become too materialistic and
greed?
obsessed with greed.
Yes.
And that's always going to backfire. Because if you look at the universe, or the earth, for example, nothing exists on its own. Like the tree doesn't grow without the sun, and the grass doesn't grow without the rain. Everything is selfless.
Yeah.
It's man's greed that corrupts money, not money itself. So it's separating that. If money comes from the universe, like everything else, then it's spiritual. If spiritual people believe the universe is spiritual, well, money is part of it, then it's supposed to be here. So it's just sort of like, I think, framing it in a way that they can relate to that maybe they haven't heard before, that causes them to challenge what they've accepted as true. To really help people overcome their money beliefs is much deeper than that. And this is why it's difficult, because our beliefs about money are very deep in the subconscious, and we've grown up with them. So, we tend to believe what our families told us and or what's accepted in society. And those can be very strong and difficult to overcome. So the person has to be willing to face themselves and what they actually believe to be true. And
This is tough. This is a tough thing to do.
But this was the stuff I intuitively sensed was needed when I was studying financial planning and wasn't provided. And I'm like, I don't have an answer for it, but this isn't the place to start.
Yeah.
So I left it, and then now years later, it's funny how, I've come back to it, and it makes perfect sense to me. So my business kind of grew into then supplementing that with financial education. But I was like, even that's not enough. Like, I don't know your opinion on conventional financial advice, but I was like, this still isn't even enough to create wealth. Essentially, I see that there are 3 components for the recipe to create the result of wealth. Okay. The first is what we've kind of been talking about a lot, is having a proper psychological foundation.
Yes.
So, that is working with a person to remove negative beliefs, usually around their deservingness. So that could be lack. I don't deserve a lot of money.
Fear of success, maybe?
Fear of success is
that big one?
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I hear you.
Yep. Typically with money, though, people there's sort of 2 sets of that, the psychological aspect. There's an internal and there's an external. So the internal is like that internal sense of lack of worth. But then there's the external judgments that people project on money itself. Money is evil. And especially, for example, in people in like the healing community, well, if I have a lot of money, I'm going to become materialistic and turn into a bad person. That's not true. You get to choose the relationship you're going to have with money.
Right, yeah.
But that fear blocks them. And most people have a combination of both happening.
Okay.
So they're just like shackled. They can't really get anything going. So the first thing is removing those barriers, those psychological barriers, because if I just start in the place of correct financial education, they're not going to really take action on it.
They're not ready to hear
no.
it, right? Yeah.
Or they'll just be like, that's for other people,
that
that's not
happens
for
a lot.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not the right place
And
to
then
start.
they think, then somebody might say, why, I said do this, why didn't you do that? Or people think, I'm so bad with money.
But right. So the problem is they still have the old programming running that's dictating, well, that won't work for me. So they
Yeah.
sabotage themselves.
Yeah,
so we got to
self-sabotage.
we got to start there first. So we go really deep, or I go really deep with somebody because it's embedded in their level of their actual ego identity.
Interesting.
So we have to kind of bring that to the conscious mind, and then I do use techniques from my coaching course where we have to challenge the certainty that the person is holding, that this is just how it is. And that's
that.
really empowering because you just start to see, like, they sit up straighter and they're like, wow, and it just starts to fall. And it's like the person starts to just become, they can feel they're much more limitless than they've just been holding themselves in this little box.
That's right.
And I love seeing that in people.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
It is. It's about empowerment, but it's not just about money. It's about themselves.
That's right.
So people will come to me and they think it's something about money. And that's part of it, but then they realize kind of quickly, like, oh, it's all the other stuff I haven't dealt with. I'm like, yeah, but then you're going to solve that too.
Maybe their motivation to come see you is
Right.
they want to get their finances in
Right.
order. Or,
For sure.
Yeah.
So we start there. Okay, now once I have the proper psychological foundation in place, then I move on to the second component, which I believe is like unbiased or correct financial education.
Okay, yeah.
So what do I mean by that? Well, the financial industry, this may be controversial, there can be a lot of manipulation and lies and
Absolutely.
deceit, and people feel that. And the fear is used deliberately, not with everyone. I don't want to stereotype everyone. There are great people working in the financial industry.
But there are a handful of people
But the industry itself is
yeah.
incentivized to compensate the banks and the financial institutions, and they're not even legally responsible for your best interests.
Fiduciary.
They're not a fiduciary.
Yeah, and people forget, and I try to talk about this a lot,
Good.
that banks are not,
They're not your
in it
friends.
for us. They're in it to make money.
They are.
But they're the ones doing the marketing.
That's it.
So that's tough. That's really tough on people. If the only people, I use the example is if a car salesman was teaching you how to buy a car. Just go in and take the first price.
Right.
on the
Exactly.
sticker.
And
go
finance
with
the
it.
hell out of it.
Yeah, whatever's going to make me the most money because
I want to tell your
need
listeners,
to feed my family.
Don't ever finance a car.
Yeah, okay.
That's like one of the worst things you can do.
Good advice.
Exactly. So even good people, and I've worked with many of them in my time in both banks I worked with, I know they're good people, but they're in a system that's forcing them to do things that are not in your best interest. And a lot of the times, the people you're coming to see, like the personal bankers, they're not as educated. They don't have a full understanding of the full financial picture. They're not the best people to guide you. So you're getting advice from people who are selling you proprietary products that bank has created, and you don't really, it's ignorance. You just hand the power over. So what I want to do is teach people how the financial system works so that they can optimize what they're doing. For example, low fees in ETFs. I believe that you shouldn't really be spending more than 0.3% on an ETF product. It's totally not necessary, at the maximum.
Yeah.
But the average mutual fund fee is like 1% or more.
Yep.
The problem is people go, 1%, 0.3, that's not much. Oh, but it's
In the long
like
run,
in the long run,
it is.
it could be 90% more.
Yeah.
If you're getting up to 2.5%, it's a ridiculous amount of money, and that can cost you 6 figures in your financial lifetime. Wouldn't you like that in your bank account?
Exactly.
So I teach people how it works and equip them with the criteria to evaluate it and choose it themselves. So I don't sell financial products.
Yeah.
I don't recommend any specific, stocks or investments.
You're just charging a flat fee for your coaching?
So it's per hour
Yeah.
or per session. And I teach them how to evaluate it themselves.
Sure.
So I teach them about asset allocation. What does that mean?
Yeah.
How to do it. I teach them, for example, for people interested in obtaining a mortgage one day, what's the best way to structure it to save yourself the most money? So how to optimize your financial affairs in the financial system as it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you protect yourself, and again, you're empowered with the truth. But that's still not enough to create wealth.
Okay.
Because I believe, like, conventional financial advice for the average person is get a job, buy a house, get a mortgage, have kids, save 10%, struggle to save 10%, and hope for the best in retirement. But that's not working.
Okay, what's
that
missing?
model's not working. For starters, life is very expensive now. We're in Toronto right now, and the cost of living here has increased significantly in the last decade. And across most of the Western world, it's just not enough. You need two incomes. It used to be maybe one was okay. Job security, working for one company where you have a secure pension, that doesn't exist. Pensions may not be there when we retire. I mean, it's just really all up in the air. So, in other words, we just can't rely on the financial system to take care of us. And again, they're not legally responsible to.
Yeah.
So, how do you create wealth?
What do we do?
What do we do? So that's led me to the third component, which is actually wealth creation vehicles.
Okay.
I believe you need to take an asset-based approach. You need to become like an owner and acquire assets that produce cash flow.
Okay.
Consistent cash flow over time. And then therefore, if you want to leave the job you hate, that you feel trapped to make an income to live, you can. And the whole reason that I teach what I do and the way I do it is because not from materialism or greed, because that's, the sign of somebody who's got a void inside that they're trying to fill.
That's right.
They're never going to be happy. What I'm trying to teach people is you're here to thrive. We're all unique, and we're supposed to be the fullest expressions of ourselves. And many people are artistic or creative and have beautiful gifts that should be brought into the world, but they feel they can't do it because of money. So I want to remove the barriers so your money is flowing so you can do what you're really here to do. It's not about materialism or greed or becoming a bad person or whatever.
It's about empowerment.
It's about empowerment, to be you in the fullest extent possible. And I see wealth. Wealth is the vehicle to do that. It's a wonderful gift.
It is a great gift, yeah. The people who think a budget or tracking your money is restrictive, I always just try to frame it as, maybe you'll see that, when you track something, you actually do have some money left over to do that,
Right.
Oh, I only spend $100 on clothes. I thought I spent $200.
Yes.
Well, look, or I set myself up where I have $200 spent on clothes. I can do that. So I can do that versus I can't, and the abundance versus lack, right?
Totally.
I do like that.
I'm actually not a fan of the word budget.
Oh, yeah.
Because, most people just kind of seize up like, the energy is just like, great, I want to enjoy myself. I don't believe in frugality. And I think there's a lot of great financial advice out there, but I find a lot of like the financial blogging world, and I don't know if this is your experience, it seems to be about, be as frugal as possible. Save 50% of your incomes. You read these amazing stories out there, right?
The retire early, financial independence
why
ones.
not just actually eliminate the things that aren't really giving you joy and real pleasure in your life, reallocate those to pay your debt, and add assets. So you're decreasing your wastage, but you're also increasing your cash flow, and you're not like feeling like you're just scraping by. Why does it have to be frugality? I feel like they're missing that part of it.
Yeah.
So, but also without the psychological foundation, those things kind of don't matter. For some people, they could just jump right in, but most people kind of need to clean up the mental base first, right?
So just as a final point, how does someone add an asset? Like, they have to have some cash flow available.
Not necessarily.
No, okay.
So there are ways to acquire assets where you're, for example, the active partner, and you have the silent partner who has the financials.
Okay.
Now, that's probably going to take that person learning all about that stuff. There's going to be a growth period. You can't just walk in and somebody's going to hand their money over to you if you don't know what you're talking about. But you could look at something like a joint venture in real estate. So, typically, you can have all kinds of combinations, but it could be a 50-50 split. So one person is providing the down payment and the mortgage, and the other person is doing all the work, to understand the market, find the right property, negotiate the deal, work with the tenants, manage the books, and they split the profit evenly.
This is very smart thinking. I'm remembering now, I just had Tyler Sheff from Cashflow Guys on, and this is what he does. He brings people together. Some people have money, some people have skills.
Yep.
It sounds like thinking outside the box, but it's actually...
It's not really.
It's not, is it?
It's really logical, but see, to a person who has a scarcity mindset, they don't even know that exists.
They wouldn't even
and
think
they go
that.
Like, what? That's a thing? And,
I could never do that.
Right. Well, not right now you can't. You have to learn how it works. So there's a learning curve. So that's the thing is like, are you willing to invest 3 to 5 years of like focusing on this to be free the rest of your life? it's well worth it.
That sounds great.
And the other thing about that is everybody's winning in this situation.
Yeah.
So
it really is.
They are,
it?
because the person wants to sell their property, and you're going to work together. The reason that the silent partner would even give you their funds, because most people are like, well, why would they do that? They could just own the whole thing. Is because they might have the money, they want a good return, but they don't want to spend the time chasing the return. If you do that work, they're happy to split it with you. They are, because the return is good.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
Yeah.
And you're helping somebody live in a house. I mean, there's nothing dodgy or underhanded or negative about this.
And that's just one example.
That's one example.
Right.
So that's kind of what I would call like a quantum leap in thinking. Because if you're very like linear thinking, which is sort of the more average mindset, the scarcity mindset, now you can see how you can build your wealth. You could do that over and over in like 1 or 2 years with several people and several properties, and you absolutely quantum leap to wealth.
Amazing.
So whereas a scarcity mindset might go like, okay, well, if it took me 10 years to save 10,000, oh, it's going to take me another 10 years. That's incorrect. So that's what we want to help people in the mindset of wealth is to make these quantum leaps. But you have to go outside the linear thinking, and because you have to decide you're not going to stay where you're at.
So how do people find you?
They can find me on my website,
Yep.
which is DanielleAlexandria.com.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, perfect.
All the links.
Yeah. And I offer a complimentary consultation, 30 minutes.
Okay,
so
great.
I want to make sure that I'm in a position to help the person and that they're ready. And of course, if they have questions, or some people might actually, I also have clients who have quite good incomes. So the psychological foundation is good, but maybe they don't really have financial education. So sometimes I might, just help somebody with that.
Maybe you can skip a step. If
Yeah.
they're already there.
Well, if they just don't know what to do with it, that's also possible. Or some people are interested just in the psychological, or some people are interested in both. So it just depends on each person.
It all sounds really valuable to me.
Thank you.
DanielleAlexandria.com. And you're on Twitter,
I am on Twitter,
Instagram,
Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. This is a really good conversation about like listening to your intuition, first of all.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, like let's change our mindset about money. Let's change the way that we think. We're all I just feel like we're all thinking about it in this one, just really narrow
One-dimensional.
way.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is great. I hope people listen to this and at least start thinking a little differently about stuff.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
If you like this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review while you're there. If you're already a subscriber, thanks so much. I'd love to get your feedback on this episode in my new Facebook group. To find the group, go to Facebook and search for The Personal Finance Show. Once you're approved, you'll be able to interact with me and previous guests of the show and other fans as well. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Personal Finance Show. Next week, my guest will be Arian Bezai, Vice President of Operations at Enriched Academy.